everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cloud Talk Live. My name is Jeff DeVerter, Chief Technology Evangelist for us here at Rackspace Technology. And you may have noticed, this is a different time, and this is not my normal background. Well, welcome from VMware Explore, and I'm so excited to be here today. Now, even though it's a different time, it is the same day, in a different location, the rule is still the same. Maybe there's some new folks who are watching. So here's what we do here. I'd love for you to introduce yourself. You know, the little comments down below, up above. Be just like, well, LinkedIn user who said hi. Introduce yourself. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you are in the world. Now, when we do this earlier in the day, we're able to get folks a lot farther east, AKA Sydney, or even in India. So I'm wondering how far we're going to reach. But I want to welcome you to another episode, folks. Again, my name is Jeff DeVerter, and I'm going to be joined by, well, somebody who you're not going to necessarily think would be at the VMware conference. In fact, that's what we're going to talk about here today. So introduce yourselves in the comments down below. If you want to get a hold of us, have some feedback perhaps, well, just send an email over to solve@rackspace.com. And when I've got that, well, then I can respond back to you. All right, Nigeria first in. Welcome. So excited that you are here. It never ceases to amaze me how far away some of you folks are. Sean Gardner, if I can count on anybody showing up, it's going to be you, friend. Welcome. We've got Leeds is here. So glad for that. Dallas is here. You know, don't be left out, folks. Introduce yourselves. I'll call you out, maybe, if I remember to. Anyway, so let's get into this. Actually, while you guys are introducing yourselves, we've got this fancy new graphic that I can't wait to show you. Daniel, go. All right. Well, welcome. And I got to actually call out, you know, here I've got Craig here, but look, we've got the Grand Canyon is here. Alabama is here. Belgium is here. Boston is here. All the Bs are here. Craig Fletcher, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me. It's a real privilege to be here representing Google Cloud, Google, and our partnership with VMware.
So glad that you're here. I said, you know, hey, I'm at the VMware conference, and here I'm talking to Google. Who knew?
I mean, does that even make sense?
It doesn't make sense.
We'll get into
but
it.
We're going to get into all that in a minute. And it's also sort of freaking me out a little because all of these are normally, my guest is thousands of miles away and I talk to them through the little camera. But you're sitting right next to me,
look,
almost awkwardly close. Look,
I'm touching him.
Right there.
We're really, this isn't virtual.
He's not a hologram, folks. I tried to hit him before. And
it hurt.
It should have. Carlos, glad that you are here. Who else? India is here, up a little bit late, but glad that you're with us. Can you believe how wide this audience is?
Pretty cool. We started with Nigeria, so I mean that took the cake right there. We have India, Boston, everywhere.
Where's home base for you?
I live in Denver.
I love Denver.
And I'm actually a Colorado native, which is rare.
That is rare.
Yeah.
You're not a Californian living in.
Well, I moved to Denver when I was 18 months old. I was actually born in California, but I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that.
You didn't have to tell me.
I don't remember living anywhere else.
You said I was an infant in Denver.
You know, I moved here in diapers. I moved to Denver in diapers. So I'm going native.
We're going to expose a lot of things today, and apparently it all starts with diapers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so here we are at VMware. They announced all kinds of great stuff this morning around AI, what they're doing in private AI. But you guys are here because apparently VMware runs awesome in your environment.
Yeah. Our offering, VMware Engine, which we'll get into in a minute, is I think it's surprisingly welcomed by our customers. Anytime we get into a pilot or a proof of concept and our customers get to put their hands on it, we usually win. We usually win the project. But I wanted to back up a little bit and maybe even talk about why would Google be here? Right?
Why would Google be here? But also, if we're going to really back up, we should back up and follow what we talked about beforehand, and that is, how did you get here? So you weren't born into Google, you weren't even born into Colorado, you had to travel there. So where did it all start for you? I mean, it was an infrastructure road, really.
Yeah, I mean, I got into the industry in 1994.
Yeah.
I got invited to come meet my buddy's boss. He thought I'd be good at technology.
Yeah.
I was waiting tables and studying biology in school, and she gave me a chance, and nobody ever gets anywhere without someone giving them an opportunity. And
Yeah.
I don't think it was an opportunity I even deserved, really.
Really? But
this
you made
lady-
good on it.
Yeah, her name was Cindy Adams. She gave me a chance. I think I started at $8 an hour and just doing really basic things, and that was almost 30 years ago. And
30.
spent most of my career on the customer side.
Okay.
Eventually worked my way up to a CTO role in a Fortune 400 business, and then
That's like the old Seinfeld, I went out, yada, 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 I got a CTO job.
pretty much there are a lot of steps in there. But my career's been pretty unique too because I've transitioned between the provider side and the customer side a couple of different times.
Okay.
So
yeah, you had a little Dell in there, you had
Yeah.
some VMware in there.
yeah, and the first 15 years on the customer side, then Dell, then back to the customer side. Then I actually worked at VMware for 4.5 years.
Okay.
Before I came to Google about 3 years ago next week.
Okay,
It's
so
my
three
three-year
years ago next week. That's
Yeah.
almost an old timer in Google land.
I know, been here forever.
I know. We have to pause again because, well, of course we have Texas, but Panama, Portugal, all the P's represented. Thank
Wow.
you. Emily's here. Boulder. She's down in Boulder. So
Oh,
she's,
cool.
she's your neighbor. She's
Emily, you got to come to the Google office in Boulder. It's amazing.
Is it?
You can be my guest.
What's your favorite thing about the Google office in Boulder?
Oh, geez. The food, I guess I might have to say the food. It's hard to get a lot of work done there because there's so much to entertain you. They have
Yeah.
a music room, a pinball machine room, a nice gym, rock climbing walls. So
Sounds like
you
I
know.
need to go up to Boulder.
yeah, it's a 10-hour day where you work 4 or 5. It feels like sometimes.
Did you say a rock wall?
A rock climbing wall.
Rock
yeah,
climbing
it's like 50,
wall.
60 feet high.
That is incredible.
So
All right. So you finally make your way over to Google,
yeah.
and you're there for what, 3 years now?
Yep.
And first job at Google was?
It was called a modern infrastructure scale specialist. First
That's
job
a
at
fancy
Google.
title.
Yeah, a
What
lot
does
of
that
words
mean?
in there. It basically means that you want to be able to help our sellers and our pre-sales people take modern infrastructure solutions to market in an efficient way.
Yeah.
And so it's all about scale. It's all about developing the content and the ideas and then proliferating them out through other people.
Okay.
So take one person's ideas and work and multiplying it by hundreds or thousands.
Wow. That
Scale
sounds-
specialist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scale.
Yeah.
All right. And now you find yourself helping with the VMware stuff.
Yeah.
Your heritage really applies well then.
Right. Yeah. I didn't necessarily think I'd be at Google Cloud for 3 years and still be working on VMware, but I'm glad I am.
Yeah.
Because there's so much need for it. Our solution has grown exponentially. It's really only been in the market for 3 years, but it's one of the fastest growing products that Google Cloud's ever had.
Why do you think that is? Other than Google's awesome.
Well, Google, so first of all, when you're doing business with Google Cloud, you're
Yeah.
actually doing business with Alphabet. A lot of our enterprise customers and digital natives alike, they realize that they can harness the full power of Alphabet from a relationship standpoint, where they're obviously doing ads and search and maps, and everybody kind of does that with Google. But the other 20 companies that we have within Alphabet, including Google Cloud, so it's just part of the portfolio. We've taken what we've learned building these planet scale apps with 2 billion plus users, and we've applied that to the Google Cloud architecture.
Okay.
Some of those disciplines like site recovery engineering, we invented Kubernetes a long time ago.
Long time ago.
Microservices architecture and all that. So some folks would say you were kind of late to the cloud game, but I think we were actually first because we built it ourselves for ourselves.
I think you were.
So that's kind of the way I look at it.
I mean, you guys build. I mean, it starts with search. They say the bookstore company, started with books and then figured out how to resell that
Right.
capability.
Exactly.
And that's how to say a company without saying a company.
Right.
And
I don't know who you're talking
But I
about.
don't even know. But you guys, I mean, you start with search and perfected what was happening there, and then figured out how to do it elsewhere.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So here we are at VMware. You're a VMware guy. You come from infrastructure. Tell me about how VMware runs inside of the Google world.
Well, so Google Cloud VMware Engine is a fully managed first-party service. So
Wait, not everybody gets what fully managed first-party service
Yeah,
means.
let me explain that.
So what does fully managed mean when Google says that this service is a fully managed service?
Right, and it's a new paradigm shift for a lot of folks who've been running their own VMware environment
Yeah.
for their whole career. But when I say fully managed, obviously I mean something that's very near and dear to Rackspace's heart too, like the
Yeah.
co-location, the facility, the lifecycle management. But we have our own support and engineering teams. They're all Google employees.
Yeah.
We do all that patching, lifecycle management. We basically fully manage the VMware private cloud stack
Okay.
with a lot of our own goodness under the
So you're
covers.
just exposing APIs, you're exposing, the essentially then the management interface.
It's just the interface.
Yeah.
Everything, operating system and above, the customer manages. Everything below, we manage.
It's you guys.
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah, and it has all the same properties of other cloud offerings. So it's a first party. We even like to call it a cloud native service because all the capacity on demand, scalability, operation, OpEx billing model, all those things apply to VMware.
Really? That's super interesting.
Yeah.
All right, anybody who's watching this, are you guys running VMware in Google? I'd be curious to know. Rough customer counts without giving away things you're not supposed to give away.
I'm not totally clear on what I'm supposed to give away.
Okay. Well, then let's just tell them everything.
I could say that it's in the hundreds of customers that are running production workloads in VMware Engine. So yeah, we can talk about why and whatnot, but that's about how many right now, and with many active pilots going on always.
Always. So let's describe then for folks, if they're going to come and they're going to move their estate from on-prem, and they're going to move their VMware estate into Google. What does a day in the life start to look like for them, and how does it change?
You mean the process of migration itself,
No,
or
once they're
after
there.
migration?
Once they're in, everybody knows how to migrate.
Yeah, especially with our partners, right?
Yeah.
Because it is actually harder
Partners.
than people think. They just, the interesting thing about it is it's not just the VMware Engine story. So a day in the life, you could say a day in the life is, you're looking at vCenter just like you do for your on-prem or your colo workloads. And that's true, right? It is the same look and feel. There's no reskilling, et cetera. However, you also have line rate secure access to all that Google Cloud has to offer. Everything.
Everything is
it's
available.
It's very easy too. The way we do our virtual private cloud networking, and the way we can peer that across the globe with a click of a button, which is a differentiator for us, basically unleashes the power of cloud without having to re-platform anything. So once customers start to see that, they do a lot more than just migrate their VMs to Google Cloud. They can really start to transform their business.
It really does
quickly.
become a launching point for them.
100%. Yeah, and by the way, and we don't like to say this because we always want ourselves to be that primary cloud provider, but a customer can pack up and go home if they want to. It's the
Because we haven't
VMware
changed
platform.
anything intrinsically. It's
That's right.
still a VMware virtual machine.
That's right. You can actually migrate back out without any downtime, without any replatforming, just the same way you came back in, which a lot of customers like.
Not that you'd want to.
Yeah, not that you'd want to, but it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
You're not locked in, because that is a big challenge with when you think about migrating to the cloud, and that is the vendor lock-in. Everybody gets really concerned about that.
right.
And when you do full transformation, if I'm going to go serverless, I really am locked in. Now,
It's true.
there is less lock-in with a container. There's some, but there's
Yeah.
on the orchestration layers you start to feel it. But when you're talking VMware, it really is a safe way to move. So when you're thinking about infrastructure modernization, and I know it's so much more than just infrastructure modernization, but it absolutely should be one of those things that folks can consider.
Yeah, and then that's why they do it. I see a lot of times too. We see customers. They'll come to Google and they'll say, "We want all the Google Cloud, modern platform, modern apps, analytics, AI, machine learning," and so we don't want to do VMware Engine. It's an unnecessary stepping stone. Sometimes they'll think that. And then what happens is a year or two will go by, and not much has changed with the applications that they've been running, that they've built their business on.
Right.
Then we start to find out that VMware Engine is the best choice, and it's not an either and. It's not an either or, rather. It's a both and. You don't have to choose. I'm going to re-platform everything, or I'm just going to lift and shift.
Yeah, so
It's
many
both,
because so many people think that it's a binary decision. I'm going to the cloud, which means everything has to shift from one location to the other, and it all has to be a homogenized. We all do it together. We're all going to transform everything. Everything's containers. Everything's whatever.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what it requires is a thoughtful consideration of what are the company's goals. So it always starts with business outcomes.
Always.
And then second to that would be on an application by application basis, where's the best home for this?
Exactly. Yeah, I call that app rationalization, or every CIO in the world is looking at their portfolio of applications going, what am I going to do with all these things?
It's too many.
Yeah.
And what the heck are we doing with them?
Right, exactly. So it's part of the answer. VMware Engine's part of the answer.
Right.
Kubernetes engine, compute engine, serverless, cloud run. There are a lot of different reasons why you'd use all of these technologies.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing when you think about, you've got you here who are representing all things from running VMware inside of Google, but it's again, it's not an all or nothing. It's what's the right home for everything, and really it starts with you as an organization working with a partner.
Yeah.
I wonder who, and you know who. And then figuring out what are those major buckets, and then what are the guidelines that fit into those buckets, and around those buckets, around technologies. Is it VMware? Is it bare metal in some cases? Is it Kubernetes? Is it more cloud native type
Right.
capabilities? And then what are the rules for what apps go into which area?
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing. I always equate it to, because just about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we moved. And what is the thing you do when you move? You discover the garage, and that has every hobby you ever had if you've been in there for a while. But they sort of settle. That stuff settles in there, and applications are like that. There's stuff
Right.
you forget about. When are you gonna-
Exactly. And then you find out about it during your migrations.
That's right. And what are you going to do with
That
some
didn't
of
work.
that stuff?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's talk then about, and this really isn't self-serving when I ask about partners, because when we've talked about the capabilities and the tools that Google brings to the table, it's not just the fact that VMware runs amazing there, and that gives you this amazing interconnect into the rest of the Google's the Alphabet suite.
Right.
So where do partners fit into that? Because it does leave a gap.
Right. Well, first of all, I think I want to go back to what pain have I seen when customers don't use partners,
Yeah.
actually? A lot of times, customers figure, hey, it's VMware to VMware. I can do this. I don't need a partner. I don't need Google Professional Services. Now, that's true for the VMware-only parts, right?
Yeah.
But for the actual planning of the migration, learning how to connect the networks, learning how to leverage the security tooling, et cetera, you need a partner every single time a customer needs help, either from our services team or a partner. Our services team cannot scale to meet the demand of all of our customers anyway. So without partners, we'd be dead with this project. So we always recommend a customer get a partner. We provide funding also for the assessment phases, for the pilot proof of concept, so that it's really no risk to the customer.
Yeah.
All right, we'll help you rationalize your whole environment, rack space, with your heritage as a colo provider and a hosting company. You know exactly how to do all that stuff. You know you're not just moving a bunch of VMs, you're moving an entire environment. So you have to consider all kinds of things, from regulatory compliance to firewall rules to all sorts of things that don't live in the world of VMware.
Yeah.
So without that experience and knowledge, it's going to be tough, even though it is the easiest way to migrate to cloud.
It is, and when you
So-
think about, there's so many things that you have to think about. You mentioned networking. There's a million others.
Right.
And with a partner, these are companies that have done it tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, thousands of times, and know those things to think about. They can help through the app, cataloging process, the rationalization process, and then help to create a roadmap. Because ultimately, what this should be, I was talking to another engineer, architect a few months ago, and he equated that first move into your cloud of choice as, you think you're scaling Everest. Well, really, you just hit base camp. You've just started the journey.
Yeah.
The hard work and the real meaningful work that you're going to tell your kids about, you'll do after the fact.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and the move into Google, I think, James in here calls it out. Oh, Mexico's here. Welcome, Mexico. Apparently, James knows something about sustainability because he's offering some services there. But you guys are pretty key in how do you drive down water usage and amount of electrical gets used. And so this move into, utilizing what we might think as traditional VM management through VMware, there are benefits also on the sustainability side.
Oh yeah, it's one of the key tenets of our company.
Yeah.
It wouldn't exist if we didn't adhere to those requirements. So that makes our customers happy, to know they're being a part of that.
Yeah.
And not being wasteful. So
Interesting stuff. So what
yeah.
are we missing here? There's more in the story to all this.
Yeah, I think, I wanted to share kind of what I see. We have a lot of customers, obviously, that want to migrate to cloud.
Yeah.
And they want to re-platform and do all the modern things. Wow,
Sorry,
Mozambique.
really distracted by
Mozambique.
Mozambique is here.
That's
Welcome,
awesome.
Morgan.
Yeah, I want to go to Mozambique someday.
That'd be so cool.
I've been to Zimbabwe.
I've never been to
to
Africa.
Botswana. It's not Mozambique. It might surprise some of your listeners and anyone else who watches this afterward to hear kind of why is it hard to re-platform to cloud native, and to hear that I think, and the teams I work with, I'm always asking people, what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What the hardest thing is? The hardest thing is actually the reskilling part. It's not the technical migration.
The tech is always the easy part.
Yeah. Not that it's necessarily easy to migrate from on-prem to cloud, but the reskilling part, it is a different world.
Yeah.
And if you need to transform your business with cloud technologies, and you need your team who's been using a VMware-based data center platform for 20 plus years to learn this cloud native thing, and now maybe multiple clouds, there are things like, the way you do billing and the way you set up projects in your organization and the way you do the networking, the way you manage a quota, all these different instance types, it's completely different.
It is.
And so I think that's actually one of the things that causes the most amount of stalling. I think even before that, though, it's the political and architectural decision-making process of what are we going to do, and that's where I always go, you can do both.
Yeah.
You don't have to pick one way or the other and then, leadership turnover. But there's some technical reasons why replatforming is harder, but those non-technical reasons are actually the biggest hurdle.
So I've talked to a lot of companies. I get pulled in to talk to customers all the time, and they may have made a decision to go all in on a single cloud. And there's even one in particular I'm thinking about. And it took them a year to go into their cloud. And once they got there, now it was IT that made that decision because they were making an infrastructure-based decision.
Right.
And that's their decision to make. I mean, you think about they're going to running on Dell, maybe they're going to move to HPE, maybe they're going to move to another thing. But it's just another layer of infrastructure.
Right.
And so I get called in because I spend a lot of time talking to folks about how to migrate and sell the capabilities of all the cloud native stuff. And their challenge was, all right, we've done this big move, and it was a big move. Took them a year to do it. How do we get the business on board with modernizing their applications? Because it's a very different thing, because it's not just, I'm going to pick this thing up and I was running it here and I'm going to run it there, but now we're talking, one, architecturally, how is it going to change?
Yeah.
And then two, who's going to pay for it? Because now they're going to knock it on the door of the business and they're saying, we need you to pay some money for these folks to go rewrite these applications, and that's something they didn't necessarily know they were signing up for.
Right, and some applications don't need to be rewritten, right?
Right.
So that goes back to that application rationalization and where do we get the most business value, and then looking at the level of effort to re-platform versus the value, and you sort of do your app sorting that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't do everything overnight.
You can't do it
companies
overnight.
have hundreds or thousands of apps.
There's the decision of some stuff doesn't necessarily need to be, and some stuff can. What about all the off-the-shelf stuff they have that they can't rewrite? We don't have access to the native code. They can't even get them to run in containers. So
That's right. Yeah.
A cloud-based infrastructure that manages VMware stuff very well becomes very attractive to a holistic move to thinking about a re-platform.
Some off-the-shelf applications too simply won't run or won't run well in a hyperscaler environment.
Right.
Some of them were kind of born and raised on a VMware-based platform, especially like, take for example, like telco applications.
That's a good example. That has to sit next to some physical switching and things like that.
Right, and there's certain things that the VMware platform can do that a hyperscaler platform can't do. With multicast and with different sort of OS compatibilities and certain types of databases that run really well in a VMware environment and don't run that well when you migrate them. You thought they were going to, then you have all these driver errors and all the testing and troubleshooting. It gets tough for some of them.
And all of that also means time, and time then equals money. If we're paying for extra partners, even just distracting your own IT folks away from doing the things that they were doing.
Then your executive sponsor starts to question the whole thing. Why isn't this working?
Right. Right. So when you think about a whole scale or a holistic move out into a hyperscale cloud provider, Google becomes a great place for that because it runs the VMware so well. does connect you to the rest of Alphabet, and does have all the cloud native in container. I mean, you guys wrote containers, so it's the best
That's
place
right.
for containers.
Yeah.
To then think about how that evolves over time.
Yep. Yep.
right.
Exactly. Yep.
What else are we missing? How do people get started?
Well, I would say contact
A great partner.
either way. I mean, you definitely want to get in touch with your Google Cloud representative or a partner. There will be a partner involved eventually anyway. Let us help you do that assessment. Again, you're not just migrating VMs. You're migrating applications. You're migrating an entire environment. And then let us help you with your pilot and your proof of concept too.
Yeah.
You don't have to be paralyzed by how do I do this. We know how to do it.
There are people to help.
Rackspace knows how to do it. Yeah,
That's right.
You're not on your own. With that long-term vision in mind, like what are we doing for the business?
Yeah.
I'd say that what you don't want to do is do nothing.
Yeah.
Don't be paralyzed. Like let us help you. I think that a couple of things is it's both and, it's not either or. Don't get stuck in these political architectural debates where 2 years go by, and nothing happens. And then also get your executive team on board. Because I think a lot of times corporate IT departments, with a change this big, they don't feel like they have permission almost to do it.
Yeah.
You need that CTO, CIO going, we're going to do this, it's okay.
Right.
Right. We can do it. So we're all on board and we're all rowing in the same boat.
That's right. So you've got to have that executive support. You got to finance has to be in there, legal has to be in there. I mean, it's a big deal to make that kind of an infrastructure.
You have to have a good why. You know, a why that inspires, right? A mission.
What's the benefit that the business is going to get? How's it going to enable your business, whatever it is that you do, to do it better, faster, cheaper than your competitor?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we see companies that do migrate to Google Cloud on VMware Engine, and they get those business outcomes they want very, very fast without replatforming. ADT is one that comes to mind. Their case studies on our website.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they accelerated their analytics query times 20 to 30x from hours down to seconds from VMware Engine.
Wow.
Right. So they put their database from VMware Engine into Google Cloud, run BigQuery against it, visualize it with Looker without replatforming everything. There's many examples.
Did you say that again? Because that's amazing stuff, folks, when we think about it, because there's all of this. Look, it can be expensive to pull data out of any cloud.
Right.
But when you think about moving it and the transit stuff, if you want to play with, and I encourage you to go work with BigQuery because you can get some amazing stuff out of it.
Yep.
But when your VMware stuff is literally sitting right next to, or effectively next to, BigQuery,
yeah,
then you've got the power without the replatform.
Exactly. It's all right there. Exactly. You don't have to wait years and years because it can become daunting to think about changing everything.
Yeah.
That switching cost is just can be tough for an enterprise.
There's a lot to unpack there, but we're starting to get run out of time here. So what I want to encourage you folks to do is, and again, not being self-serving when I say work with a partner, because one of the big benefits that I find with partnership is, one, we've been there and done it before, so we know the gotchas and we know how to guide. The second is we know how to work the right funding programs to make sure that that Google in this instance is helping to fund that move, because it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, we set aside budget for it. We don't want you to get stuck wondering how you're going to pay for your migration. We want to help.
Want it to work.
Yep.
All right, everyone, I want to thank you so much for being a part of the program today. Craig, look at this is the first time I've done this. I get to shake somebody's hand live on camera because
Making
here
history.
we are. It is. We need to do that now. We'll just start flying people in for the show.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the budget for that. Anyway, thank you for being a part of the program here today, folks. It really has been a pleasure. If you're at VMware and you're watching this, well, then you paid to go to a conference and you're watching me, so that's kind of weird. But at any rate, come see us. I think we're down in 509, booth 509. Google is around here as well. Are you going to be at Google next week?
Me personally, no.
You're not going to the show?
I wanted to, but our director of product management for VMware Engine, his name's Manoj Sharma. He's amazing. He'll be there, and many others from the team.
Well, we'll be there as well. If you're going to be at the show, come see me. I'd love to visit. In the meantime, everyone, if you have not subscribed to the Cloud Talk podcast, where we have original content outside of this stuff, make sure that you do that. And the audio from these, of course, always shows up over in that stream as well, should you miss one of these live streams, because every now and again, we show up at a time you don't expect. All right, everyone, I want to thank you for being a part of the program. I want to thank Daniel for being available to do this at strange times. And, of course, new to the team is my good friend Chris Cochran, who's helping to run all of this as well. So, everyone, have a great Coburn, not Cochran. I'm thinking about, do you remember Chris Cochran from Rackspace? He doesn't work at Rackspace anymore. At any rate, have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next week on Cloud Talk Live.